What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we have ourselves a story time video. Man, it's been a while since we last had a story time video. It's just that with football season ramping up towards the end of last year and at the beginning of this year, I felt that it was more important to make videos about that, especially with the playoffs and all that stuff. But now that football season's over, I have time to make all these other types of videos that I've been wanting to make. And today, if you guys just clicked on this video without even looking at the title, we are going to be talking about who is quite possibly the creepiest coworker I have ever worked with. I am telling you right now, this guy to this day, honestly, he still gives me the creeps. There's no better way to describe the vibes he would give me other than Jeffrey Dahmer vibes. Like, I know that sounds like harsh and that sounds super weird, but it's true. Like, I cannot describe the vibes that he would give me better than calling them Jeffrey Dahmer vibes. Like, I'm telling you, and this guy even would wear glasses as well, just like Jeffrey Dahmer, and then those glasses even look the same as well. Like, I don't know, this guy was just all types of creepy, and we're gonna get into it in today's video. So just sit back and relax and enjoy me tell this insane story about the creepiest coworker I've ever worked with. So I used to work at Pollo Loco. I worked there for over 3 years. I started around February of 2021 and I left around June or July of 2024. And I will definitely say the first half of working there definitely was not enjoyable. Like, I did not like it one bit, but I think that had more to do with the mental mindset I was in at the time. But as time went on, like for the final half of my time at Pollo Loco, I actually really enjoyed it. I think it's probably because like things were starting to open up, because this was during the pandemic, especially the first half was during the pandemic years, so like everything was still shut down. But during the second half, that's when everything started to reopen up again, and I think that definitely helped me out a lot. So I ended up like actually enjoying Pollo Loco. Like, I did not leave Pollo Loco on bad terms. Like, I really enjoyed it, but I had to leave because I wasn't getting that many hours there anymore, and I was kind of just losing out on money. So I had to go and find another job that was going to give me the hours. But I will say this, one of the reasons why I actually started to enjoy it much more was because of our special main character of this story. Of course, I'm not going to use his actual name, so we're just going to call him Ralphie. So Ralphie started working at Pollo Loco around mid 2023. He started working at Pollo Loco, and at first I just thought that he was just gonna be another regular worker because he was hired to work the grill, and I didn't really think much of him. But oh boy, once I started to interact with him, my goodness, that's when all this crazy stuff happens. So you know how whenever you go to a job interview or you go to your first date, people always tell you to dress your best, because the moment you walk into the door, people are gonna automatically start judging you by your appearance, because that's really the first impression they get of you. Well, that couldn't be any more true for Ralphie. The moment I saw Ralphie, I immediately knew there was something wrong with this guy. I immediately knew there was something about him that was just so odd, because the very first thing that I noticed was his appearance. This guy, apparently he was 34 years old. Ralphie was 34 years old? Yeah, he honestly looked like he was 50. Like, this guy looked old. He looked just so old. But yeah, apparently he was 34. But the thing that really struck me the most was his facial appearance and body movements. Let's start with his facial appearance. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not saying that you always have to have the most expressive facial appearances or anything like that. Like, oh, you always have to be like moving your face around and things like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. But this guy had one of the strangest facial appearances I have ever seen. And again, I'm not saying this as in like a, oh, your face, oh, your face, what's wrong with your face, what's wrong with your face, bro? No, I'm not saying like that. This guy, honestly, he always had the same facial expression. His facial expression would never change, and it was such a weird facial expression he would always make. I'm gonna take a quick selfie of myself trying to imitate the facial expression that he was doing and put it right here on the screen for you guys to see what I had to see and what all my other coworkers had to see for at least a good amount of months before he finally just quit. And then we get to his body movements. Okay, here's the thing. Again, I'm not saying that you have to be the most flexible person imaginable, that, oh yeah, you need to be the most athletic person imaginable, but this guy had some of the stiffest body movements I have ever seen. It is crazy how stiff his body movements were. And it honestly looked as if you tried grabbing his arm and moving it in one direction, you would just hear an entire creaking sound. You would just hear like sounds like you literally hear sounds like that if you try moving his arms. I don't know what was up with this guy's body movements. Like they were so stiff. It's almost as if his body movements were dealing with rust or something like that. I don't know what the heck this guy was doing, but this guy's body movement was so stiff. And that's just his appearance. Now let's get into some of the things he would actually do while on the job. So first there's the hand on the shoulder. Now, here's the thing about me. I'm not exactly a very touchy person. Like there's only a very few people that I actually legitimately get touchy with. And when it comes to people getting touchy with me, I won't lie, I do kind of have a double standard right here. If a guy starts to get touchy with me, I'm immediately like, whoa, back off, bro. Back off right now. But if a girl starts to get touchy with me, I can kind of let that slide. You know, a little bit. I'll let that slide. I'll let that slide definitely. But this guy, Ralphie, a lot of times when he wanted to talk to us, he would literally come up to us and just put his hand on our shoulders. And it was just so creepy. It was just one of the creepiest things imaginable. The way he would just put his hands on people's shoulders when he was talking to them. And no joke, this actually happened. One time, me and one of my coworkers, we were getting into it. Like we were arguing with each other. I forgot exactly what we were arguing about, but something had happened and it had caused an argument between the two of us. And this guy, Ralphie, he comes up to the two of us and he literally puts both of his hands on his shoulders and tries like talks to us. And it was so creepy. This was so creepy that it literally diffused the whole situation. Like the two of us, me and my coworker, we were so creeped out by Ralphie that we were literally like, okay, look, I don't really have the energy to continue arguing anymore because this guy was so creepy. And it was just so strange how Ralphie was able to do that. He was able to end the argument between the two of us because of how creepy he is. Oh yeah, and it's also worth knowing that there was this one instance where Ralphie went up to one of the chefs, and when he was talking to her, he literally put his hand on her shoulder, literally like unwanted or anything like that. And the chef had to tell him to stop because, of course, like she's probably really creeped out that, yo, this guy's literally just coming up to me and just putting his hands on my shoulder. Like, what the heck? That's so creepy. And it got to the point where the supervisor at the time had to write up Ralphie. He had to write him up because of just how creepy Ralphie was being. That also leads into the next part where I think Ralphie was trying to hit on this one lady that worked at Pollo Loco. We're gonna call her Shelly. What's actually funny is that I actually do have an entire story time about Shelly, and I am gonna tell that story one day. It's not gonna be the very next video or the very next story time video, but I will tell the story one day since it's a pretty bizarre story. But anyways, Ralphie was, I think he was hitting on Shelly because a lot of times, well, so the way it would go at Pollo Loco would be that you wouldn't take your 15-minute break until the end of your shift. I know it's kind of weird, but that's just the way they operated at Pollo Loco. And a lot of times, Shelly, of course, when she was done with doing all the tasks that were needed to be done in order to close the store down, she would go, of course, take her break, and so would Ralphie. Ralphie would also take his break as well because we didn't give him that many like tasks or duties because this guy was just so weird, and he was also like very slow as well. He was a very slow worker. So he would oftentimes go and sit at the same table with Shelly, and he would constantly try to like talk to her and just like say all types of things. And Shelly, I can just tell from her facial expression that she did not want to be around Ralphie, that she just did not want to be around him, and that she was just so creeped out by him. And what's funny is that a lot of times when Ralphie would leave, Shelly would just come up to him and would be like, man, that guy is so creepy. Like, he's literally just like talking to me this entire time. And I'm just like, what the heck? Like, can you just please go somewhere else? And it would get to the point where Shelly would even put her earbuds on to visibly show that she doesn't want to talk, but yet Ralphie would still stay there and still talk to her. I don't know, it was just so weird. Shelly also told us a story how one time when Ralphie was cleaning up the grill, because in case you don't know, at Pollo Loco, when the store closes, the cook has to clean the grill, and the way they clean the grill is by using a hose to spray water on it, or they will just get buckets of water and just throw it onto the grill, since there was oftentimes a lot of grease and a lot of oil in the area and you don't want that stuff to build up. So one time Ralphie was doing that. He was just grabbing buckets of water, just throwing it on there, and I'm not too sure how this happened, but apparently he was trying to get a bunch of the oil and grease that was on the ground into the drain, because again, when you're washing the grill, a lot of that stuff just goes onto the ground and you need to wash it into the drain. And I'm not too sure how this happened, but Ralphie was trying to wash all that oil and grease into the drain, but I guess one time when he was throwing the water onto the oil or grease, Shelly was walking by and he threw the water onto her shoes or onto her lower legs, and apparently Shelly got so angry that she literally flipped off Ralphie. Like, she literally just flipped him off right there. I personally didn't see that right there, but apparently Shelly said that that's what happened, and I don't know, that's just so crazy that actually happened. Oh, and it's worth knowing that whenever Ralphie was on break, he would, of course, go on his phone like most of us do, and he would use TikTok, which I don't use TikTok and I don't plan on ever using TikTok, but he would go on TikTok, and the things he would watch on TikTok, there is no better way to describe the stuff he watches on TikTok than pure utter garbage. There is no better way to describe what he watched on TikTok than just garbage. I just remember one time I was on my break at the same time he was on his break, and I was listening over to what he was watching, and I couldn't even make out a lot of it because it just sounded like utter garbage. If you actually honestly right now asked me what was he watching, what do you think he was watching, I can't tell you, because like I said, the best way to describe what it was that he was watching is garbage. That is the best word to use to describe what he was watching. But I think probably the craziest and most creepiest instance of this guy had to be a little incident that he had with one of my managers, who we're gonna call Blight for this story. So Blight, I would say she was definitely like the second main manager of the store. Like, there was the main manager, the one who basically owned the store, and then there was Blight. Blight was very cool. Like, she was very nice, and I honestly liked working with her a lot. And what I liked the most was when I first started working at Pollo Loco, I was, of course, still new. I still didn't know a lot of things, and I think Blight was one of the first managers that actually recognized that I was still new, and she actually would treat me accordingly and would help me out with a lot of things, because I think a lot of the managers, when I first started working at Pollo Loco, I think a lot of them thought that I was experienced and that I had already been working there for a while, because originally I had started at a different Pollo Loco, but I was realistically only there for a month or two, and even then I was barely there because I wasn't getting that many hours over there, so they transferred me to the other Pollo Loco. But anyways, so Blythe was this really cool manager, and a lot of times she would work the night shifts, the same night shifts that Ralphie would work. And it's also worth noting that Ralphie didn't have a car, so he doesn't have a car, and he would a lot of times take the bus home, because I guess he would take his bike with him, and whenever the shift ended, he would take the bus home. And the thing is that there was one instance where he was moving so slow that he actually missed his bus ride home. He completely missed it home, and of course, Blythe didn't just want to leave him there, but at the same time she was also kind of creeped out as well, because like I said, this guy was so creepy that nobody wants to be around him. So she literally offered to just pay a Uber ride or a Lyft for him, and rather than just accepting the Uber or Lyft, this guy Ralphie actually tries to convince Blight to let him into her car and that she could drive him home. And of course, Blight's freaked out by this. She's like, oh, no, it's okay. There's not enough room. I drive a truck, so there's not enough room. And then this guy, Ralphie, goes on to say, oh, that's okay. I could just ride on the back trunk of a truck. He actually proposed that he can ride on the back trunk of Blight's truck. That is just so crazy. That is so creepy. At that point, that's no longer a thing of, oh, there's not enough room in my car to give you a ride home. That's more like I do not want this guy in my car or anywhere near my car, because this guy is so creepy. I'm telling you right now, this guy was so creepy. And you're probably wondering, why did I say that this actually was one of the reasons that working at Pollo Loco actually got better? the reason why I said that is because many of the managers did not want to work with him. They did not want to have to deal with him because, like I said, this guy not only was really creepy, but he also just simply put wasn't very good at his job. He just wasn't very good. And there's some things that could make me think that, because I think I remember one time I was talking to Blight, and Blight told me that this guy may have had like some type of like mental disorder or something like that, which of course that's like kind of sad to hear. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that this guy was so creepy. But anyways, most of, if not all, the managers did not want to deal with him. They did not want to work with him. So they made me deal with him. Even though I'm not a manager, they made me deal with him. And the best way to describe what it was like for me to work with Ralphie, it was basically like the Decoy and John Dupree in the last video.
What'd you bring?
Presents.
What do you got? Show me.
Chips.
Nice.
And then whenever Ralphie tried to put his hand on my shoulder, anything like that,
A hug.
I don't know.
Hey, move. Hey.
yeah, like I said, this guy was just so creepy. And a lot of times whenever I was working with him, I could just feel his creepy aura just rubbing off onto me, where, oh my goodness, there was just so many times where I would just stare at him and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I can't move. This guy is so creepy. I don't know if the customers ever once got that same feeling as well, because at some point they ended up moving him from the grill or from cook to the cash register because he just simply wasn't that good at the grill. Like I said, this guy wasn't really that good at his job overall. So they just moved him to the register, and again, I had to train him and do all that right there. And like I said, I don't know if customers ever once saw him as creepy, as at least as much as we did, because he didn't really interact with that many customers. And I would say the few times that he interacted with customers, it wasn't that bad. A lot of times I just had to stand by him and just like make sure that like he was pressing the right buttons and he was giving the customers the right things that they wanted. But the times when I really had to talk with him a lot really was towards the end of the night. Towards the end of the night, in case you don't know, who's ever doing drive-thru typically has to pack all the salsa. That was probably the one part of working at Pollo Loco that I just never got used to. I never liked packing all the salsa because you would have to pack 4 or 5 trays of salsa, which could take just so long. Typically, a tray of salsa, you need to pack 200 little packages of salsa in order to fill up just one tray. So if you're packing 4 trays of salsa, that's about 800 little packs of salsa that you're having to make. So it just took so long. And a lot of times when Ralphie would work a night shift, they would have me deal with him when I was doing this. And a lot of times, again, he would just like mess it up. And I'll just tell him like, oh, hey, like don't worry, I got it. Like, it's all good. It's all good. I got it. And again, he would continuously try talking to me, but he was just so creepy. It was just crazy how creepy this guy was. But here's the thing. Despite how creepy he was, I never really used that as a justification to treat him terribly, because let's just say that I kind of had a similar reputation when I was in high school, so I can kind of see what that was like. But it still doesn't erase from the fact that this guy was so creepy. But yeah, but even though this guy was like so creepy, and a lot of time we did kind of argue with each other, because like I said, this guy would go so slow to the point where I couldn't tell if it was just him either just going slow or if it was that he didn't know how to do certain things. So that's why sometimes we'll get into arguments. But like I said, I still would like treat him like with like the same like kindness and respect that, you know, I would want people to treat me with. And it actually helped out a lot when I would do that, because we didn't get into that. Like, of course, like I said, we did get into some argument, but it wasn't that many. And it did kind of help me at least to kind of not see him in like such like a dehumanizing way as like all my other coworkers and managers did. Like, I could tell they like wanted nothing to do with Ralphie. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. But you know, me personally, I did kind of talk to him a few times, and it did kind of like humanize him in a certain way. So I guess in a sense there's still something positive with Ralphie. But then at some point, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got fired or if he got laid off, but at some point he wasn't coming to work anymore. And for a while I thought that was it for Ralphie. I thought I would never see Ralphie again. But then one day when I got off of my current job, I drove over to a nearby KFC, and there I saw Ralphie in a KFC uniform just walking up to the restaurant, and I'm guessing about to work in there. So you know what, at the very least he's working. I don't know if those people there also see him as just as creepy as we did, but you know what, as long as he's working, as long as he's making a living of some type, that's at least good, because I could definitely imagine if it's true that he has some like mental disabilities, as I heard Blight tell me, then that could definitely make it really tough to actually have a fulfilling career to where, you know, you get paid a good amount and all that right there. So as long as he's working, as long as he has like a decent income, that's at least a good thing right there. But yeah, that is the creepiest coworker I have ever worked with, and I don't think anyone is ever gonna surpass Ralphie in terms of the sheer creepiness and also the vibes that they would give off. Like I said, this guy legitimately gave off Jeffrey Dahmer vibes. Honestly, the second closest creepiest person that I've ever worked with, honestly, they don't even come close. Like they come nowhere close. So I think this guy is comfortably at the top spot for the creepiest coworker, and I think he's gonna stay there for a while. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.